Hey there everyone, Seb here with some more Battle of Olympus. Let's play on together. We just visited Hermes, the messenger of the gods, and he gave us some sandals. Now you would expect that would make us really fast, but instead it allows us to jump ridiculously high. So high in fact that we can even invert gravity itself. Really awesome, one of the most unique power-ups of the game, and I quite like it. We can do all the things that we could before, even jump. You do want to be careful with the jump however, because if you jump too high, you will revert gravity back to its original state, and if you happen to do that above a pit, well, you will drop straight down to the game over screen, so be very careful with that. Anyway, let's move into this tree here, which brings us to the Lost Woods, which happen to be in Peloponnesus in this game, or as the map screen likes to call it, Peloponnesus. Period. Anyway, this area is kinda terrible, especially for new-time players. Right away we meet a new enemy. I think it's supposed to be the Hippogriff, though I'm not entirely sure. The menu only lists boss names. But seeing the god that we're meeting here, this is my best guess.
Be careful in the Forest of Thorns. If you burn all of the withered thorns, you'll do okay.
A very important tip as to why we need the Staff of Fennel. Also, the Staff of Fennel is handy for those spider webs, because they can be burned, and if you get stuck otherwise in those webs, you need to go ham on the buttons to get loose again. Anyway, why do I call it the Lost Woods? Well, because this is a maze area and it kinda sucks. Good to keep in mind is that there are 3 main areas in this forest, each housing 6 doors. If you keep that in mind, it's not that bad.
Hydra has settled deep in the marches of the Forest of Thorns.
Good, guess who we're going to meet. Yay. Now I am showing off all of the NPCs. Were you to skip them, you would be able to come up with a more efficient route.
I heard that the Grey of Laconia have a crystal ball with mystical powers. Use the power to enter the caverns of Argolis.
And this is actually one of the more important tips of the entire game, which will help you progress, but many people skip it and get stuck. And it's also hard to connect it. Anyway, the colors have shifted, that actually indicates which part of the area you're in. But first, we meet a god.
Welcome, Xenos. Here, I'll give you this harp to play at the Monument of the Sun. Pegasus will come to help you.
Sweet! We get our first instrument, our secondary item, or sub-weapon, although it's not really a weapon. We use them by pressing select. Yay, and it does absolutely nothing. Great.
Hear the word of the gods. Don't forget it. RDBW7Y TCFY. Okay, I'll level with you, Xenos. It's not really the word of the gods. Truth is, I went shopping today, and this was on the bottom of my receipt.
Awesome. Way to be serious there, Mr. Apollo. At least I think this is supposed to be Apollo, since we got the harp. Which might be a mistranslation here, because it should be a lyre. Because harps weren't invented yet, you see. This is also why I connect him with the Hippogriff, because the Hippogriff is actually the symbol for Apollo, so that makes me guess that those things are supposed to be half horse and half eagle, even though it doesn't really seem like that.
I've heard that Poseidon lives below Laconia.
Okay, awesome. I like Poseidon. Really interesting, because Apollo should also be very much connected to our hero Xenos, or in the actual tale Orpheus. Because Orpheus himself was a magician, and he had a great singing voice. It's actually how he convinced Hades in the original tale to let go of his love. Anyway, in this third area you actually have 2 exits to separate areas. First of which is this, which is actually the area with thorns.
Here is wisdom from the past. Never hit the pavement of the 3rd pillar by the seashore.
Oh, what does that mean? Anyway, touch those green patches and you get hurt, so do not do it. Like me. Here's another special patch. It's brown and it's high and you can't jump over it at all. However, you can cheap pass through it. Or you can just burn it. But I want to show there that even though you are supposed to have the Staff of Fennel, you do not necessarily need it. You can sequence break there, and just skip the staff entirely if you want. And here, there's bubbles. Ooh, close one. Do not touch the bubbles, they will knock you into the pit, and that's no fun.
I saw the nymph being taken to the caverns in Argolis.
Very handy tip, because we need those nymphs, if you remember correctly, to hunt for the fragments of love. But yeah, this area is a bit tough, and we need to traverse here, unfortunately. Ooh, even closer.
Please help the spirit of the forest. Hydra is bothering her.
Oh no, we can't have that. Let's move out here to the Lake of Lerna, I suppose, and meet the Hydra. Which in this version is supposed to have 8 heads, which translates to whacking it on the nozzle about 8 times with either the club or the staff, doesn't really matter. Which makes no sense because, you know, it should be you're lobbing off the head with a stick, which does sound really badass, but seems kinda impossible. The Hydra, of course, was the second labor of Heracles to sort of redeem himself for killing all his children, and it's a rather tricky fight. I'd like to keep it safe and keep my distance about half a screen from the bubbles, and then just wait on a long lunge. You can also cheat this a bit by going all the way to the front, and there is one particular area where you can stand where it comes out and you can hit it right away. However, I always have trouble finding the particular spot, so I like to keep it safe and do it this way normally, instead of wasting a couple attempts to actually find the right spot. But of course this does take much longer. But oh well, he's dead. 8 hits is all it's taking.
I am the spirit of the forest. Now that you've driven out Hydra, peace will return. In return, please accept the sword.
Sweet, and we get our first pointy thing, the Xaphos, I guess. Typical Greek sword, which has a leaf-shaped blade like this one.
Huh? What more do you want?
Well, I tell you what, it might be looking awesome, but it lacks flame. And yes, even though it does have a higher attack power, it lacks reach because no flame.
Thanks to you, peace has returned to the area.
Cool, another event flag. Love that stuff. But yeah, not having a way to attack from a distance is kind of a problem, I find. And I typically like to stick with the staff more. It's just more practical, I find. Anyway, another labor that Heracles had to do, and I noticed that the bull might also be a reference, because the 7th labor of Heracles was to capture the bull of Crete, the Cretan Bull, as it were. However, we were not near Crete, so makes no sense. I'll get rid of you, bat. There you go. Sniped you good! Stupid bats, they are the worst. But yeah, so maybe that was supposed to be... Ouch. Ah, crap. Should have burned the bushes there. Oh, yeah, and flame, it cannot hurt you once you've cast it, so, you know, it's not like Link who gets hurt by his own flame. Xenos doesn't do that stuff. He just walks straight through that flame, no problem. Anyway, let's head over to the second other area that connects on this third forest area. It's really all not that too complicated. If you go through a door and you get lost, just go back, you know.
Cyclops has blocked the road to Laconia. The only way to beat him is to touch his eye with a sword.
Preferably with the pointy end, I suppose. He doesn't specifically say it, but you know, just my guess. Stupid bitch, you are the worst. Oh man. Yeah, when they're on the ceiling, you can't do much to them, unfortunately.
The crows told me there's something hanging from the top of those trees.
Awesome. But what? Leaves? Apples? Ah, crap. Let's investigate. How do you get it down? Well, just whack the tree and off pops a ambrosia. Sweet, another life upgrade. That is very handy. And over here, you want to be sure to snipe this bat over here, or he will be a pain in the ass. Get out the sword, and let's move on to another mythical beast here. Cyclops. He just chucks rocks. You want to back him in a corner and then just lure out the stone throw and just move under the stone and jump up and whack him in the head. And you know, shove that sword right into his eye. And that's it. When you're on the same level, he is a bit harder, but not impossible. But I do recommend to try and go to that top floor. Anyway, off to a new area, Laconia. And that does mean an end to the lovely Peloponnesian music. And it also means more badness, because those birds, they're the new worst. They are awful. They go overhead, and look at this mess. Look how many enemies are on the screen now. Yeah, this is where the game starts to become a pain, but especially those birds, they are awful because they hurt a lot. There's also some monkeys running amok down there, but they're less of a problem. They can be a pain near pits though. Here I want to get rid of the birds, and I do that by, you know, luring out the pickups so that they won't respawn. Now I do believe these are supposed to be the Stymphalian birds, incidentally the 6th labor of Heracles, although I'm not entirely sure. Again, the manual doesn't name them. The area makes no sense, and some people call them eagles. However, the eagle is tied to Zeus, and I imagine the eagle being very busy pecking apart Prometheus after he gave us the flame. Anyway, over here hit this pillar and out pops the Trojan pitcher. Another sub-item, which we can't use yet, but it allows us to store nectar and restore our health. Very, very cool. That is actually the 3rd pillar from the seashore that was hinted at before. I didn't show it, but it's there. And over here, there's another area we need to find, and it's dark. Here's another property of the Staff of Fennel. It allows you to light up this area. Now, who was living underneath Laconia again?
Welcome, Xenos. I'm Poseidon. Would you like to use the ocarina for calling my dolphins? I'll let you have it for 60 olives, okay? If you use it to call my dolphins, you can cross any sea.
Awesome! Take this link, we've got the ocarina first. And we can use it by using select. Yay! And again it does nothing yet. Oh well.
Hear the word of the gods. Don't forget it. 3, capital L, capital F, N, capital M, capital D, C, capital N, capital O, J, capital T, capital I, capital B.
Yeah, I guess it's been a long trip. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Join me next time as we continue on. Until then, take care. Bye bye for now.